Hi, I'm Beth from Sew Country, and today's video is for the Debby wristlet. This is a cute pattern from Sallie Tomato that comes together really quick. I have decided that I am enjoying making simple patterns. It gives me a chance to have some fun with some new materials and some hardware and not be stressed out during my sewing, and that's really what I want right now. So for this one, I wanted to try out Sallie Tomato's new faux leather. I sew only on a domestic machine and I have no desire to have an industrial, but I still want to be able to create things that look nice and are more sophisticated at times. So I was really excited to see this. I love the way it worked. I want to show you how easy it is to sew on domestic. Honestly, this material was easier than some of the vinyls that I have been using for a while now because it was thinner. So great material for this pattern. This pattern comes together really quick. Honestly, it's about a 10 to 15 minute sew because you will have some raw edges on the inside. I'm okay with that because this material is non-fraying. This pattern does have different options. So this first video is just how to make the quickest, simplest version of the Debby pattern. So we're just going to sew with a raw edge and we're going to leave some of the inside seams unfinished. I'm going to do 2 more videos on this pattern just because I like it and I think it's great for a last minute gift or for craft shows. So my next video will come out a little bit later and it'll actually be showing the Debby pattern using a waterproof canvas with French seams. Same pattern. And then the last one will be this pattern using binding to have not only all finished edges but also a little bit of contrast on the outside to make it just a little more visually fun. So I love to be able to get one pattern and hack it and do different things with it to have more variety for what kind of craft show or what kind of gift I want to give. And see how easy this faux leather sews on a domestic machine. So I'm going to go over the supplies I need. This is the pattern. You can find it on the Sallie Tomato website. It's an older pattern, so I have the paper copy of it. A lot of your local craft shows, local craft stores will carry this pattern. You will need the wristlet. The way I'm doing mine is let me just show you actually how thin this vinyl is first. You can see how super thin that is. It's thinner than a lot of the vinyls I have already here, so I was really glad to see this. And when it folds with like no bulk almost. So really easy on a domestic. So for this wristlet, I wanted to leave the sides raw, so I just folded it the one time. On my other one, you can see that I did do the 4-way fold, like a double fold piece of bias tape, and it's fine, but you can see it's a little bulky. And I just wanted to try it the other way. Plus, I have some hardware I want to use. This one, I ended up doing a 1/2 inch wristlet. And so it's a little bit smaller. For this one, I wanted it to look a little different. So I'm using some 1-inch hardware on this one. And I just have it folded in half. You can see that here. So that is my wristlet. You can cut the length whatever size you prefer. I typically, with a wristlet, like around 14 inches, somewhere around there. So my wristlet piece. So we looked at the wristlet. Now let's look at our piece A. The top portion is this piece right here. Piece B down below. This piece. And then we have our back. Now I wanted to do this one today a little bit fancier. So I'm going to add some hardware, which I don't usually do a lot of hardware, but I just thought it'd be fun since it was such a simple pattern. So I'm going to use this gold zipper. I love using gold. I know a lot of people don't, but I love using gold. I'm also going to put a little bag tag on this one. I went back and forth as if I wanted it on the front or the back, but I think I'm going to go with putting it on the back. So I'm going to put it on the back of my bag at the bottom here. This is just a simple prong. And so I'll just put it on the bag and then install it with pushing the prongs open. Super easy. I'm also going to use this for my wristlet. After I sew my wristlet, I'm going to feed this in there and have just a nice little piece of hardware there. I'm going to use a gate ring to attach my wristlet strap to the bag because I'm actually going to be using a grommet. Grommets are a nice way to add a little bit of extra to your bag, and honestly it's a little easier. So you can see the grommet right here. I have a grommet cutter and it really helps make this go in quicker, but you don't have to have a D-ring sticking out, so it looks a little more sleeker, a little more slimline. So consider using grommets. This one was used making my grommet press, but for this video I decided to use the ones from Sallie Tomato that are just the press-on ones, so you actually just push it together to snap it. I don't have the strength to push it together, so I use pliers to actually push mine together. So that is the hardware that I'm going to be using for this bag. The first thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and attach my hardware label. I like to measure in when I'm attaching hardware like this about 1 1/4 inches from the inside of each side. So this side I go in 1 1/4 inches, this side I go in 1 1/4 inches, and that just helps me make sure that I'm not going to be in the seam allowances any. So I just press those open. You could add Decaville light, you could add a piece of foam, whatever, but that's as simple as I do it. I'm pretty easy. So I'll put that piece aside, it's done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to construct that front. We only need 2 pieces. Our zipper is going to go right in between there. For me, I love to have my zippers closing to the left, always. I know there's some kind of rule that if you're right-handed, it goes this way. If you're left-handed, it goes this way. No, for me, it always goes to the left no matter what. So that's the way I'm doing this one. If you lay your pieces out like this, it kind of helps you to not make a mistake as the way you want it to go. So whenever when I attach the piece A to the zipper, I'm just going to flip it down. Because I know this is a raw edge pattern, what I want to do is I'm going to center the zipper on the piece A, but also what I want to do is I want to attach this with my piece A just a little bit lower than my zipper tape. I want to see my zipper tape peeking out maybe 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch when I'm sewing this. The reason why is that then this raw edge of my vinyl will be hidden by my zipper tape. So let's go ahead and sew this on. You'll use the seam allowance given in the pattern, but just make sure you can see a little bit of your zipper tape above the vinyl whenever you're sewing these 2 pieces together. With this vinyl, I'm going to use my regular stitch length, which is a 3. I'm going to use my regular needle, which I usually use a Microtex 9014, I think, and just the thread I get from my local craft store. I don't need to do anything fancy because this vinyl is very domestic friendly. Back stitch, of course, the front and the end. And while I'm sewing, you're going to see me kind of shifting to always make sure, I don't use clips, I'm just always making sure that about 1/8 to 1/16 inch of that zipper tape is showing above my vinyl. So now that I've sewed that together, you can see I just have a little bit of the zipper tape above, and so when I flip this seam allowance, you can see that that zipper tape will encase and enclose that raw edge of this faux leather so that it's not showing, and it just looks a little bit neater and a little bit prettier whenever you're on the inside of your bag. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to top stitch that seam allowance down just like you always do. I'll top stitch it from the right side 1/8 of an inch away from that folded edge. And I'm not lengthening my top stitch. I'm keeping it at that same 3, but you can definitely lengthen yours if you like that. And while I'm just continually pushing that seam allowance, making sure it goes down. So we have the top finished. You can see from the back side, that's the way it looks. I gotta trim a thread there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to orientate that the way it was, and now I'm going to flip this top portion down on the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing to make sure that a little bit of my zipper tape is showing whenever I'm sewing it from this wrong side, but I also need to make sure that I do keep these edges aligned. So at this point I am going to clip just my sides to make sure they don't shift during this process, because they'll have a tendency to do that. Okay, again, just about 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch of your zipper tape showing above the raw edge of your faux leather, and go ahead and stitch that with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Just like in the top part, when we push down that zipper tape, it is going to enclose that faux leather, and I'm going to top stitch from the, let's close my zipper there. I'm going to top stitch from the right side, just making sure I keep that zipper tape seam allowance pushed down. Now we have our front portion complete, and it's time to attach the back. So now that we have our front finished, we're going to take our back and we're going to lay it on top. The way this pattern is designed, you will always have to trim down once you're done, just to make sure. They make this back a little bit smaller and your front a little bit bigger, so whenever you do this final stitching, you always have plenty of excess and you're not going to be in trouble and can trim all that down. So it's designed that way, so don't feel like you made a mistake whenever it's like this. So I'm just going to clip around here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew, and I'm going to sew from the back. Even though that zipper pull is there and that's going to make it a little bit trickier, I'm still going to sew looking at my back because I have the overhang. Now if you don't like it and it's really bothering you, could go ahead and trim down the exterior and then sew this way so that pulls laying flatter, whatever your preference is. But I'm going to sew this according to the seam allowance given in the pattern. I'm going to use my regular stitch length, and I'm just going to sew a complete box. So now that I've gotten everything stitched together, I'm just going to trim up the overhang and seam allowances, and I'm also going to trim my corners by cutting them diagonally across, just making sure we don't cut our stitches. Okay, so now that we have everything stitched together, I'm simply going to open my zipper and I'm going to turn this right sides out. Once you get your bag turned the right side out, you're going to have to take a little bit of time to poke out your corners. I use my stiletto that has not a sharp end, it has a smooth end, and I use that. I'm just careful when I go slow so I don't poke through anything. But now at this point, we could consider this done. Lots of times what I'll do is I'll take one, you can see it's a little puffy, and that's fine. That's just the design of the faux leather, because it hasn't been taught which way to lay yet. So a lot of times I'll place it under a heavy book or something just to get it to flatten out. You can also see my labels there at the bottom. You could leave it just like this, and it's a cute little gift or a cute item to sell at a show if you have shows that you do. What we are going to do though is we are going to add a grommet here and our wristlet. I'm going to tell you that the pattern does theirs a little bit differently than I do mine. I like the way they do that. I think it's really good, but I'm just not going to do it. They have you insert a little square. It gives you the measurements inside the corner of this, and you stitch around that. I'm sorry, let me say that again. They have you insert a square piece of foam into this corner where you're going to put your rivet. After you put that piece of foam, then you stitch on that foam and anchor it here. Then you attach the grommet. I am not doing that. What I'm going to do is I do have a press and I have a grommet hole cutter. I am going to use that. You can get those from Cam Snaps. There's also places you can get them on Amazon, or you could also even just lay your bag down, get your grommet out, put it right there where you want it, trace the inside of that, and cut your circle out with scissors. There are plenty of ways to do this. You do not need fancy tools. It's just whatever you have and the money you want to spend. If you're going to be doing a lot of these, you may want some tools to help you make it a little bit easier. I am going to go ahead and get my grommet attached. I am not going to cut the hole on this video because my tools are over there and it would be a hassle for me to move them. But just so you know, I'm going to cut my hole, and then what this grommet does is it just presses together and snaps in place. I will use a tool to kind of push it down firmly. Sallie Tomato does have videos showing the entire process if you want to watch that if you're confused on it, but I'm going to go do that now, and then we will get back to sewing our wristlet. I went ahead and attached my grommet, so now I'm going to go ahead and work on my wristlet. So let's pull that out. I'm going to sew my wristlet down both long edges with a stitch length of about a 3.5 for this material. You can use whatever type of wristlet material you want, webbing, the vinyl. You can fold it like I did twice and have a raw edge on the side. You can fold it 4 times. You can even cut 2 pieces and glue them together and have raw edges on both sides. Whatever you want to do on that one. Okay, I have my wristlet strap sewn together, and now I'm going to pull out this piece of hardware. This is also from Sallie Tomato, and it is just a simple clasp method. You can see the teeth right here is what grips on to the wristlet to kind of hold it, but I will use pliers, or you could even use a rubber mallet, whatever you want to do, to clamp it down. You simply fold the strap together, and you're going to slide both edges in, and that's going to finish it and just finish the wristlet. And this is a really great way to make wristlet straps or key fobs and kind of use up your scraps and have something nice to do. So I'm going to take this off camera, and what I like to do is I like to put fabric on both sides and to kind of encase it that way whenever I'm clamping it down to make sure I don't scratch anything up. But all you do is just push it together. So you can see my strap goes straight in the middle, and then I just push it down. I just don't have the finger strength to push it because the metal's it's a firm metal, so I have to use the pliers. So I have the key fob hardware attached to my wristlet strap. The next thing I do is I just get out the gate ring, and I'm just going to use it to attach all the pieces together. So first I just slip my wristlet on, and then I just come over here and I slip this through that grommet opening. And then I have this gorgeous bag. Now this bag is perfect, as you can see, for a gift or for a craft show. It comes together so quick, so you don't have a lot of time invested in it. And that way you can do great with making a profit if you sell at a craft show, or making quick gifts with just some supplies on hand. So it's good to keep these things on hand. If you don't have them on hand, you can do the simpler version that I did. Let me show you that one compared. So this version is a little bit cheaper to make, and you can tell there is a definite difference in the way they look. If I would have had all the same hardware, it would have looked better, but just know that you can make them cheaper. But wow, for a special gift, or if you're doing shows, you can sell these for a lot more whenever you sell them like this. So this pattern is really quick. This is the Debby, and it's a quick way to come together. Like I said, I'm going to make 2 more videos using the same pattern, showing you different techniques and different ways to market these for your shows. For this style, this is going to be one of your more higher end items for people that like a little bit more bling. The second way I'm going to show you is a more practical version. It is going to be using waterproof canvas and French seams, and that is going to be great for wet bags, snack bags, things like parents need that they can just easily toss in the washing machine and clean or wipe down, things like that. For the last one, it's going to be more of a fun style to this bag, where this is more classy and more sophisticated. The last one will be more fun. I'll use a funner print and a contrasting bonding to have just a quick little fun carry pouch for, you know, younger kids and things like that. This is definitely has a higher end look. Anyway, this is the Debby pattern from Sallie Tomato. I'm using all Sallie Tomato hardware and fabrics. The fabric is actually a faux leather, and you can get all this on the Sallie Tomato website. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you come up with unique things for you to make as gifts and items for your craft shows, and happy sewing!